Born on June 30, 1966, in the tough Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn, Iron Mike Tyson, the alias that he would one day assume, learned early on about survival and having to be tough. The youngest of 3 children, Mike Tyson was abandoned by his father as a child. The biggest influence on him came from his mother, Lorna, whom was opposed to violence but was dealing with her own demons like alcoholism. She did her best to raise young Tyson and teach him about non-violence, but the family moved to another neighborhood in Brooklyn, Brownsville, when Mike was 10 years old, and he quickly learned that pacifism won't save you on the mean streets of reality. Tyson recalls his first fight at just 11 years old when an older boy ripped the head off of a pigeon that he was raising.
But in order to possess them, you have to let them go. You can't imprison them. You have to have the freedom. They have to be on their will to come with you. And that's where you get the gratitude to believe that they're here because they love me. This bird has a bond with me. This is my bird.
Tyson explains the feeling of exploding and attacking the boy with fists, feet, and head, and he realized in that moment that he enjoyed it. It was a great way for him to vent frustration and anger. Not long after, Tyson joined a local gang named the Jolly Stompers, where he began a life of crime which included pickpocketing, house break-ins, muggings, and even armed robbery. It wouldn't be long before the law caught up with Mike, and after serving short stints in detention centers, he finally graduated to a correctional center for juvenile delinquents in upstate New York. It was here that Mike Tyson's fighting potential was recognized by a former fighter and counselor, Bobby Stewart. So impressed was Stewart with the, at the time, 14-year-old Tyson, that he recommended him to famed and legendary boxing trainer Cus D'Amato. The two hit it off. D'Amato, who trained and managed Floyd Patterson and Jose Torres, both of whom went on to be inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, would achieve the same outcome with his new charge, Mike Tyson. And it was Cus that shaped and formed Tyson into the wrecking machine that would take the world by storm.
Mike Tyson, weighing 210 pounds, has an exceptionally good record. He had maybe a dozen fights in the Junior Olympic Championship, and he knocked out every fighter he fought to win the national championship twice. Tyson not only has a very hard, terrific punch in either hand, but he has developed elusive qualities and has the most important quality, the will to win. He has the desire to win. He wants to be the best.
D'Amato taught Mike about having the right attitude and discipline in order to become a world champ, and Mike listened and committed himself to D'Amato's teaching. After failing to make it into the USA national boxing team for the 1984 Olympics, Tyson would turn pro and would go on to win his first 10 fights in a total of just 16 rounds. At 20 years old and in his 28th professional bout, Iron Mike Tyson knocked out Trevor Berbick in 2 rounds to take over from Floyd Patterson as the youngest world heavyweight champion in the world.
I like to dedicate my fight to my great guardian, Customato, and I'm sure he's up there and he's looking and he's talking to all the great fighters and saying his boy did it.
And smiling, that's right.
Tyson would become the heavyweight lineal champ and capture and defend the WBC, WBA, IBF and Ring Magazine belts in the next 9 title fights against the likes of fighters like Tony Tucker, Larry Holmes, Michael Spinks and Frank Bruno. Turmoil bubbled thinly beneath the surface, however. By the time Tyson fought Bruno in Las Vegas in 1989, his life was falling to pieces. He lost his beloved trainer and father figure, Cus D'Amato. He was involved in a tumultuous marriage to actress Robin Givens, and in one incident sat bewildered during an interview with Barbara Walters as Givens, sitting beside him, catalogued the list of physical abuse and volatile and threatening experiences involving Tyson and herself, including Givens' mother.
There's a time when he cannot control his temper, and that's frightening.
What happens?
He gets out of control, throwing, screaming.
Does he hit you?
He shakes, he pushes, he swings.
Tyson was also involved in street fights, car accidents, and clashes with the press. Tyson parted with trainer Kevin Rooney and teamed up with controversial promoter Don King around 1988, which brought with it manipulation and deception. Tyson would later claim that King and his co-managers took him for more than $100 million. The King and Tyson combination initially brought success, but then James Buster Douglas happened in Tokyo, Japan, 1990. There was some controversy over a slow count when Douglas went down in the 8th, but ultimately Douglas would regroup and knock out the seemingly invincible Tyson in the 10th round, proving that Mike Tyson was human after all.
Buster came back in the 9th round. Look at this. Buster not intimidated. He wants to keep it going. Mike actually, his legs, notice his legs in his wide shot. He doesn't have good bounce on his knees. Buster's legs actually look flexible. See Mike the way he went back in the field, doesn't have the good balance. Legs together and Buster's landing these. Oh, and that's uppercut by Buster Douglas. Look at that. He knocks Mike Tyson down for the first time in his career. Mike Tyson has been down. He's in big trouble. He may not be able to recover. It happens here in Tokyo, Japan. Wow, what a surprise. Now there'll be all kinds of questions about Mike Tyson and his middle preparation.
Tyson would bounce back after his first career loss, but trouble outside the ring was only intensifying, culminating in the rape trial that would see Tyson jailed for 6 years in 1992 after being convicted of rape, with his release coming in 1995 after serving 3 years. Leading up to his big money showdown with Evander Holyfield, the pressure of Tyson's ongoing outside trouble seemed to affect his bouts with Holyfield in the ring. When in their second encounter, Tyson harshly bit off Holyfield's ear in retaliation, according to Tyson, for a headbutt from Holyfield. Tyson would lose both fights, and it was clear that the previous undisputed champ was a shadow of his former self.
I'll be cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly.
In 1999, Tyson was found guilty of assault charges and would return to prison, where he served 3 months of a 1-year sentence, released early on good behavior. Mike Tyson's career petered out over the following decade with mixed results. His career officially ended in 2005 with a loss to big Irishman Kevin McBride when Tyson retired in the 6th round.
Change, I've been rocking this exchange, popping off and risking things, gonna make a fucking name. I just wanna be famous, but I don't want that cheap fame. No, I'm not that vain. I just wanna be greatness.
Tyson has stayed relatively active in the gym and had an exhibition bout with legendary and former 4-division champ Roy Jones Jr. in 2020. The two International Hall of Famers, Jones to be inducted in June 2022, looked in relatively okay shape given their ages, and the fight concluded in a contentious split draw. Tyson endured much pain and suffering in his life, particularly during the active years in boxing. The threat of unpredictable and easily provoked violence has always accompanied Tyson, and the tragedy of losing such a close and positive guiding force like Cus D'Amato early on only added to the instability. It's hard to imagine the sadness of not having D'Amato present to witness Tyson's accomplishments in boxing, including Tyson's induction to the International Boxing Hall of Fame. But Tyson survived all of this and came out the other end intact and seemingly happy. A new person, you could say. Still, boxing fans will never forget the old Mike Tyson and the things that made him so savage.